Okay, so we've covered ninths and 13ths on major and minor chords, and for the minor chords we've also looked at adding the 11th. But there's still one more really useful shape to look at, and that's the 6th chord. This is a chord without a 7, has a 6 instead, so it's not a 13th because a 13th chord includes the 7th. This is a chord that needs nothing more than the root, the 3rd and the 6th, and of course optionally you might also have the 5th in there too. And the way we add the 6th is to go back to our shell voicings and simply lower the 7th until we reach the pitch of the 6th. And because 6th chords don't have a 7th, they're neither dominant type nor major 7th type, but just major chords with the 6 plonked on top. And of course, we can do the same thing for minor chords too. So if we lower the 7, it creates a 6th chord. Here's that G7 again. And lowering the 7 a fret to E makes G6. It's very common to play G6 like this, with a 5th added on the 2nd string. You might try this G6 shape in conjunction with G major 7, for example, to create a bit more interest. Try this, G major 7, then swap your fingers around for G6. It looks like there's lots of movement, but actually there's just a single note that changes, the major 7 going to the major 6. And of course we need to look at the same thing for the 5th string shell voicing. Here's C7, and if we lower that 7 a fret, we have C6, and I'm barring across the notes on the 2nd fret. You can easily add the 9, that's the D, which gives us C6, 9, and actually the 5th fits nicely at the top. Try switching between C major 7 with the 9 added, so that's C major 9 and C6, 9. Finally, let's find those 6ths on the minor shell voicings. Let's take A minor 7 on the 5th fret. And the 7 of the chord is on the 4th string here, so let's lower that a fret to make it the 6th. That's G to F sharp in this case. Try alternating between A minor 7 and A minor 6, you'll need your first finger for that, to create some interest when you've got more than a couple of beats on a single chord. Okay, nearly there now. Last one. Our shell voicing for D minor 7 on the 5th string is like this, where the 7 is on the 3rd string 5th fret, so we lower that to a 6th by moving it down a fret. And if it doesn't feel like overkill, let's just pile on a couple of extensions. The 9 on the 2nd string, and the 11 on the top string, which we can get just by barring across on the 3rd fret with the first finger. So that would be D minor 6, 9, 11, I guess. Now we've already seen that it's very common to move the 3rd of the chord, that's F in this case, from the 4th string up to the 2nd string, just to make it more accessible, like this. So we're going to move it up to here. That's D minor 6. Which means, of course, you could add the 5th of the chord to the top string. And bearing in mind that the 6th is a fret below the 7th, from here you could just move that finger up and back if you're vamping on D minor 7. So you can see by fiddling around with the voicing for D minor 6, moving the 3rd up an octave, we've now created a different shape for D minor 7, and that's actually a really common way to play a D minor 7 chord, although in reality you might finger it differently. Okay, that's pretty much everything, but I just want to mention one more variation that comes from moving the 3rd. We already saw that if we lower the major 3rd, we create a minor chord. But what happens if we move it the other way? If you raise the major 3rd up a fret, it actually becomes the 4th, and now you're playing a sus4 chord. This note, the 4th, is at the same pitch as the 11th, and we don't generally include the natural 11 on a major chord, but since the 4th replaces the major 3rd, we don't create the same unpleasant dissonance as we'd have if we placed the 11th on top of the major 3rd. Let's look at how these sus chords work. Okay, back to the original shell voicings and take a look at the 3rd of this dominant shape. That's a B, and if we raise that to the 4th C, we're now playing G7 sus 4. And again, you could add the 13th and the 9th extensions to that, if that's the sound you're after. Alternatively, and we saw this with the 11th on minor chords, you'll also find that 4th behind the root on the 1st fret of the 2nd string. And if you add the 2nd, A, on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, you now have G7 sus 2, sus 4, which is quite a useful shape. You'll also see it written as F/G, which means F over G because you effectively have an F chord, a triad here on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th strings, and a G in the bass. It has a very distinctive sound. Likewise, on the 5th string dominant shell voicing, raise the 3rd like this, and you have C7 sus 4. You can play that with a bar, which makes it really simple then to add the 9, that's D. That would be C7 sus 2 sus 4. And again, you'll see this written as B flat over C. There's a B flat triad with a C in the bass. In fact, you can run that bar all the way up onto the top string if you include the 5th of the chord. You could even add A on the top string to make C13 sus 2 sus 4. Okay, that's a quick look at what happens when we add the 6th and the 4th and the 2nd into our basic chord shapes. In the next video, we'll take a look at altered extensions where we flatten or sharpen these 9ths, 11ths and 13ths. For now though, hopefully you're starting to get a feel for the way these notes relate to each other, and especially how to locate these extensions on the neck relative to the root of the chord by visualizing the shell voicings we started with.